Caitlin Glass, and let's slide.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, good to see you.
Oh God, I'm sorry. This is not okay.
What's up?
What's up?
How you guys doing?
Day one.
Yeah! Oh my God, I just...
How many of you were here for the whole weekend? Raise your hand. All right. Sweet. That's awesome.
Hi!
Hey.
What is happening?
So I don't think we have a moderator, do we?
This is just like a Q&A, right?
It is.
Oh, okay.
It's Ask a Voice Actor.
So,
For many of them.
I hope that you guys have cues.
So everyone line up the microphone here.
Why don't you a microphone? You want to say who you are and where
Oh,
we
right.
might
I
know
guess we
each
should
other and stuff?
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you start over there, Eric?
My name is Eric Vale, and in the Dragon Ball universe, I play Future Trunks, as well as the highly lauded tournament announcer.
This isn't a Dragon Ball panel, though. It's an everything panel.
It's in everything. What else?
Who else are you?
Aaron!
Did she tell you this was a Dragon Ball
She
panel?
told me it was a Dragon Ball panel.
Originally, it was a Dragon Ball panel, but it got
Okay.
switched to Ask the Voice Actor panel.
Okay, so I'm Eric Vale. In addition to Trunks and Dragon Ball, I play Sanji in One Piece, I play Shigaraki in My Hero Academia,
Yay!
Yuki in Fruits Basket,
Yay!
others.
We can all lead with Dragon Ball, though, if you really
Yeah,
want.
let's
That
lead.
makes you feel better.
I'm feeling okay.
Well, hi, I'm Caitlin Glass. In Dragon Ball Super, I play Vale. Just thought I'd throw that out there. But you might know me as Haruhi Fujioka from Oran High School Host Club. Winry from Full Metal Alchemist. Mina at My Hero Academia, and others, like you said, and Vivi in One Piece, and nice sound. And most recently, let's say Damien in Spy Family. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Turn us up.
Hello, I'm Erika Harlacher, and I am Venti in Genshin Impact. Kurapika in Hunter x Hunter. Shimoku in Demon Slayer. On Tsunamuki in Persona 5. And lots of other cool stuff. Very excited to be up here.
Yay!
Hello, I'm Lex Lang. I play Suguru Geto in Jujutsu Kaisen. In Dragon Ball Super for Toonami Asia, I play Goku, for anybody who's seen that. Big Asia. Woo! And let's see, gamers might know me as Dr. Neo Cortex from Crash Bandicoot. Let's see, I play Teuchi, the ramen guy in Naruto. Have some more ramen, Naruto! I also play Hayate in Naruto. I play Goemon Ishikawa in Lupin the Third. Let's see, Sanosuke Sagara and Rurouni Kenshin. And I've done over 500 characters in different shows, and I've been doing it for 27 years, so I hope I can bring some insight and some information for you today. Thank you.
Microphone here. Very exciting.
Doesn't sound like we can hear you. You have somebody
It's
else
just for
working?
show. It's
We can
just...
probably hear someone.
Yeah, it's not too
I think,
noisy in
yeah.
here.
So if you have a question, just come up to the mic here. Where
Come
our
up to the
friend,
fake microphone.
come up to the fake mic.
And just speak loudly. Use your diaphragm and project.
Use your outside voice.
Yes.
Great. And we don't know lines from our shows, unless you know.
Hello.
Hi, what's your name?
Kaede.
Kaede? I like that.
Sorry for everyone seated on that side who now cannot see us because there's a line.
It's okay.
Scoot over to this
You can
side.
hear us still, you're
There's
okay.
lots of room over here.
What's your question?
So, just wanted to know, like, what do you think is, like, your favorite role in all of what you've done throughout your career?
Okay.
What's our favorite role
Favorite
in
role.
everything we've ever done?
Let's It's like choosing children.
Oh, I know.
I can do that.
I'm so sorry.
All right, then you go first.
Shigaraki.
For me, it's How to Be Fujioka.
Right now, currently, I'm really enjoying being Venti.
Is it just anime or just everything?
Everything.
Okay, so I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I've gotten to play Han Solo and a bunch of stuff. And I've gotten to play, let's see, my brother, who's no longer with us, was a huge Batman fan, and I've gotten to play Batman several times in different shows and from Mattel and a bunch of things. So I probably have to say those two are on the top. But for anime, Suguru Geto is one of my favorites that I've ever gotten to play. So I'm psyched about season 2. Anybody reading the manga out here? Okay, are we ready? It's going to be hot. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for your question.
I am Kawaii here Jordan fan. What was it like coming up with the voices for Sanji and Vivi?
Well, I didn't come up with the voice for Sanji. I actually auditioned for Zoro. I had a real good voice for Zoro. It sounded like Sanji. So, and I think Chris Sabat auditioned for Sanji, and they just kind of flipped us.
Nice story.
It is.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Similarly, I did not audition for Vivi, but I did audition for Nami. So they had that audition on hand, and it was probably, actually, it wasn't too long into the process of when Funimation took over One Piece, because we were doing so many different parts of the story at one time. And they decided to do this Alabasta movie, and even before that, there was a video game for the Nintendo Wii, the first Wii. So I think it was actually Sabat who cast me as Vivi, because they did that game at his studio.
That's right.
In
Yeah.
his place. So, and then the next thing that happened at Funimation is they said, let's do one of these One Piece movies. This Alabasta one is really popular, so let's do it first. And that's how Vivi happened. Yeah.
Thank you.
It doesn't work at all. You have to just we'll repeat your question for the room.
Perfect,
Yes.
no problem. Thank y'all for coming out here and representing the industry. First and foremost, really appreciate it.
Oh, it does work.
There you go.
No. I heard him tapping. Live.
Fucking we ball.
Yeah. Power through.
You're for real? But
Put
put it in rice.
We can hear you.
I read
The mic's dead.
You're good. We can hear you.
So for those of you that have done voice acting both video game and animation wise, which do you prefer? And if you do or don't, could you give a brief explanation as to like why you do prefer or the struggles you might have in one medium compared to the other?
Okay, so for the room, the question is, do we have a preference over voicing for video games or anime? And if so, why is that?
Animation too.
Yeah, and animation, yeah, so animation versus video games. I think all of us have done all of the above.
Yeah.
So, do you have a preference?
I'll start. When we do Western animation, which is original animation, we all get to work together in the same room. We all have a script and our own microphone, and we do it like theater style, where we run the entire show all the way down with the director, and then the director leaves and goes into the engineer side of the booth, and then we run the show line by line all the way from the top all the way to the end. When we're doing anime, often we don't get to know what the story is beforehand. With a show like Batman, we get the script a few days beforehand. When we come in to do an anime show, we don't have the script beforehand. We go in, and the loops or our lines are numbered. And so the director might say, okay, your first line is at loop 27, and they'll give us a little explanation as to what's happened in the story so far. And you do your loop, or maybe half a dozen loops, 27, 29, 31, whatever, you go through that. And then they say your next loop is loop 400. And so you go all the way near the end of the show when that character comes back, and you don't know anything that's happened in the show, and the director, if they're a good director, they usually have knowledge of the entire show. And they say, okay, this has happened, this person's got you upset here, this and that. And then we usually, when it's anime, we preview the Japanese, not to copy, but to understand what the emotional content is of the character and how it's being performed, like what the emotions are behind the character. And we're also by ourselves. We're not in with the rest of the cast. Same with a video game. With a video game, you have all your lines in one shot. It's all on one page. You just go from line to line to line, and then it's like, now we need efforts. Now we need 18 ways to die, you know, and then go through every single different type of thing. So they're really different in each category. Yeah, and so it's a lot of fun doing them all. The most challenging, the most technical one is anime, because you have to match the flaps that are already pre-illustrated or pre-animated. When we do an anime, a Western animation, we can act and do whatever we want, we can ad-lib, and then they animate to us. And then a video game, you know, it's just like you do several takes of the same line. Like they'll say, give me an A, B, and a C of each line. So if you're saying, get to the generator, you might have to say that 3 different times, over and over, and every single line has different lines. Yeah. I was on a show called Evolve. It's not a show, but a video game called Evolve. I don't know if anyone's ever played that game or not. But when I got there, I had 3,600 lines to do, and the director said, let's do the ones where you're not screaming first. And I said, okay. So we did those 40 lines first. And they said, so we need an A, B, and a C for these lines. One of them was get to the generator, that's why I used it. But he said, on your A, make it like you're shouting over a machine gun fire. So it's like, get to the generator! Right? And he goes, on your B, I want you to be at the bottom of a ravine, shouting over aircraft fire while you're being bombed. And it's like, okay. And the third one, I want you to be at the bottom of the ravine, machine gun fire, bombs going off, and so like everyone was louder than the next. And it's like, give me an A, B, and a C for 2,700 lines. So at the end of session 1, I walked out going, okay, I guess we're done today. You know, like I had no voice at all, and I had to take a couple days to recover. Now we have rules in place where you can only do it for 2 hours, but when I did that game, they could rip your throat for 4 hours straight. And it's changed a lot. I know I've kind of hopped the answer on that one, but anybody else want to chime on any of that stuff? Sum it up okay?
Yeah, I feel like that was a good summary. I personally love working with other actors, so I like being in the room for like American animation stuff, because it's just, I started in theater and I like being able to bounce off of people, and I do a lot of improv, so it's nice to have people to improv with that aren't just you alone by yourself.
And sometimes in American animation, you're sitting next to like a full-blown celebrity that's right next to you, you know?
Yeah, that is
It's really
cool.
fun. It's like, whoa, Brooke Shields is working with me today. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
I got to record with Jane Lynch.
Yeah,
That
isn't that
was
cool?
awesome. She was a villain in an animated movie that we did together, and I got to be backup, and I was like, for a villain song, and it was great.
I actually haven't done, I don't think, any pre-play. I feel like there's a lot more creativity in video games because even if it is in Japanese first, there's still a lot more freedom to come up with the voice and perform how you want and give it this sort of timing that you want and emphasis. And if you're creating a brand new character, you have complete freedom. You've auditioned and they like a voice that you did or an accent or something. But then as far as giving them a sense of humor and all of that stuff, you really get to do that more in games. And anime, everything about the personality is pretty much set. But it is its own art form to then give that a voice in English and kind of like color by numbers or stay within the lines, so to speak. But as Lex mentioned, video game work is very, very strenuous. So that's the balance or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm so free to be all goofy, but I gotta be goofy like 4 times in a row for every single line. And oh man, it does pay a lot better though. Yeah. To make up for that.
I was doing a video game the other day, and I took a picture of one of the pages I had to do, and it said, this was the pain efforts. So it was pain effort heavy, pain effort medium, pain effort heavy, pain effort small, pain effort big, efforts for having your neck snapped, death effort quick, death effort being crushed, death effort being burned alive, death effort being dissolved by acid, death effort by electrocution, death effort by explosion, death effort by long fall, death effort by smoke inhalation. And that's all I got on one camera, one clip, but it went on for a while, and I was like, oh, a million ways to die, was that one?
Well, thank you all for your phenomenal answers and the great work you did.
Thank you, thank you.
Hi. Hi.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
You
don't
just
have to
talk to
Yeah,
us.
just talk to us.
The mic dies.
Okay, is it okay if I ask a question to Miss Harlacher?
Sure.
So I know that I think my favorite roles for you or like the favorite characters that you did was Kurapika and Venti. How do you feel? I feel like that now that I think about it, there's an interesting dichotomy between the two characters because Venti is all about freedom and letting loose, while Kurapika actually sits down to like a bloody path where he isolates himself from his friends to avenge his family. How do you feel voicing those kind of characters?
So the question is how I feel voicing Venti and Karapika. Two of my good boys. I love them. So first, for Karapika, because I voiced him first, so he starts out already a 17-year-old boy, and when I got the auditions, I auditioned for Gon and Killua and Karapika, and I emailed the studio back and I was like, did you accidentally send me this almost adult man to audition? And they were like, no, he's played by a woman in Japanese, we want kind of like an androgynous feel. And I was like, okay. And then I got called back for Killua, and they were like, we really liked your Karapika, but we want to hear it for Killua. And then apparently they were like, no, I'm just kidding, we want it for the original that you sent it for Karapika. And I was really nervous because he's like, usually when I would play a boy character, they cap at like 12 years old or something, once they hit puberty, they play a bad guy. And so he was way more intense than any character I'd ever played before. His whole family was murdered, and he's out for revenge and doing a lot of battles and stuff. So it was totally different than anything I'd ever done. Up to that point, I'd really been playing like princesses and like moms sometimes. And so I was like, okay. But it was so much fun, and it was such an amazing show, and like the surrounding cast was so good, and the director, Tony Oliver, he was like my first voice acting teacher, so I was like, okay, cool, Tony will take care of me. And it was so amazing, and I'm hoping that they animate some of the stuff that they're doing in the manga right now at some point, because he's the main character right now, so I would love to come back. But yeah, he's very serious, and so, there's a lot less joking around in those sessions for me, because I feel like I want to like get into the mode of the character, so if they're a more serious character, I'm less jokey with the engineer. And then opposite, Venti, he's all about jokes, so it's very fun every time I go to record for him. And half the time he's drunk, so that's also super fun. And they wanted him to have a very like androgynous sound, and his personal story is very sad. But we only hear about that like once, and the rest of the time he's just having a great time. He's barred. They finally let me sing in one of the most recent updates. I've been bullying them for 2 years. Like, please, can I sing? He's a bard. So finally, we'll see if I ever get to do it again. And yeah, it's so much fun. I love how he has so much. I don't know. There's a lot of nuance to Venti because. Even though, he is joking a lot of the time, he does have a sad backstory, and I don't know, they're very different experiences, and I really like getting to play guy characters. I feel like I feel like a lot of girl characters are a little more reserved, and, they want me to have like a higher voice, and it's nicer to just kind of be like, bah! A dude. A dude, yeah, exactly. So it's very fun. Thank you so much for the question. Hello!
Can you say your favorite line from one of your famous characters?
Say our favorite line from one of our famous characters. Okay, cool.
Can you say a line in Trunks' voice?
Sure. No!
That's awesome.
Think Barbados. Wait a minute. Barbados.
I hate monkeys.
I'm not a hero, I'm an honor student, and who are you calling Haru-chan?
And there's always, War Greymon!
Hi.
Hi!
I have a few questions if that's okay. So,
Well, there's a big old line behind you.
Start with your
I'll
favorite
make it fast.
one. Okay.
For somebody who's tried out like amateur voice acting roles, how do you deal with like changing subtly enough to be considered different people? Like, do you
Within
ever,
the same show? Like you have to talk to yourself?
whether in the same show or if you find that, oh, I realize I've done this voice for somebody else before, like, how do you get past that?
I don't think, so I had to learn very early on that sometimes you're just going to be cast for what your voice has to offer, and that there's nothing wrong with that, and that we don't all have to be like Mel Blanc, like doing all of the voices in one show, where you, like, if you listen, you can tell that Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and everybody, like, that's all the same guy, but they sound so very different. I don't have to be able to do that in anime to be considered a good actor. I really thought that I didn't have range if this character didn't sound like a 180 from the other character. And that's probably just not going to happen anyway. So you have to look at, like, what are a character's given circumstances? And those small things are going to make subtle differences in the voice. But you can go in and listen to, especially from my early stuff, when you're first discovered as something, I bet this happened to you too. They're like, Erika is the blah voice. So then everything she's cast in, she's the princess or the mom, because they like that. They like what her voice has to offer and that quality for that type of role. So same thing, like I'm Winry and I'm Vivi and characters like that. They all are kind of similar until somebody else happens to come along and you get to do something different, like Haruhi Fujioka. And everyone's like, oh, she has a lower register? Cool, have this role and have that role. So like, the people at home aren't sitting there going, that sounds like the last show she did, she's terrible. No one at home is thinking that. They just want to get lost in the show and not think about the voice in that way.
Also, when you're developing a character, there's a director named Andrea Romano, who's really well known, really great director. She's retired now. But she said, know who you're talking to and know how you feel about them. So she used Batman as an example. She said, for Batman, when he's talking to the Joker, he knows how he feels about the Joker, and he's going to sound different than when he talks to Alfred or Robin. And so, whatever character you're doing, if you know who you're talking to and you know how you feel about them, that's going to immediately create different, character development traits.
And layers for the character as well. So I'm a director full-time, and a lot of newer actors will come in and they don't have that subtlety within one character to sound like, within any given character's voice, there's a range of pitches and emotions and sounds that could be played. So like you said, talking to Joker is going to sound different than talking to anybody else, and that's true in anime as well. But a lot of newer actors are so stuck on, this is the voice for this character, and this is all I'm going to do from start to finish. And that's boring and not good acting. I said it.
This one's just a yes or no question. Do you find yourselves, all of you, applying your vocal eye to movies, anime, games that you witness? Like, does it bother you that you can't fully enjoy something because you're like, oh, that guy ripped his voice out watching that kind of thing?
Sometimes. yeah, I'm like, oh, that must have been a rough session.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was it.
Thank
Cool,
you.
that's
So if you're
great.
interested in voice acting, tomorrow morning, room 314 is everything you wanted to know about voice acting, where you can actually come up and do some voice acting at the end, which is going to be a lot of fun. So if anybody here is interested in being a voice actor, tomorrow, 10:30 a.m., room 314, which I think is that way.
Hi.
Hello, I'm Zoe, and I just have one question. What is your favorite studio/company that you have worked for?
Like an animation studio, maybe?
Whatever company.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to pick. Partially because it's just hard, and partially because this is being recorded.
I'm going to take it from the angle of anime that I've worked on, either as an actor or as a director. And so my favorite studio is PA Works. And anytime I get to direct one of their shows, I'm really over the moon about it. And then another studio that I love is, and I don't think I've been in any of their shows, is Studio Mappa. They do JJK, they do Chainsaw Man, they do lots of wonderful work. And I directed 3 shows of theirs called Garo, the animated series. They're like 3 different seasons of it, so yeah, they're fabulous.
Bang Zoom. That's where I kind of got my start in anime. Sony Pictures, like doing Transylvania, Hotel Transylvania. That was really fun doing those 3 or 4 Hotel Transylvanias. Warner Brothers doing like Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, Batman, and those kind of shows. Cartoon Network doing a regular show. Those are all great. You know, it really has to do with the cast, the production. There's so many great studios, it's like picking the favorite child again. I know you can do it.
I can do it.
But it is like, you know, you're there to be an actor and you get to act and it's fun and there's great productions and so it's hard to just pick one.
Me too, that's my answer.
I love all the places I've got to work. It was really cool when I did some Disney stuff. I got to do, for like Alexa Kids, there's like this interactive audio stuff that you can do where I'm the narrator, and so I take you through like a few different worlds. So there's like, you can choose Little Mermaid, or Tangled, or Princess and the Frog, I think, and then there was one more. And they got all the original voice actors back to be the characters, and then I was being like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to Ariel's grotto and talk to her, or do you want to like, and you do like your own, choose your own adventure. It was like really cool. So that was really fun, because I'm such a Disney nerd that I was like, they were like, okay, so now do you know what happens in Tangled? And I was like, do I know what happens in Tangled? I already do. And they were like, cool, okay. So that was fun, yeah.
As a voice actor also, there's a much smaller pool of actors than like on-camera actors, so we get to know each other and we get to enjoy seeing each other at different sessions. So it doesn't matter where the studio is. If I see Erika or anybody that I've worked with before, it's always like a good experience, and I know you feel the same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
You don't like seeing each other, I know that.
Huge honor to be asking you guys a question. Is there any advice that you wish you could have gotten, or that you may have learned yourself just over the years for someone who may be starting out, or just anything like that?
Yep. No, Eric first. Eric first. Go, Eric.
Mine is short. The best advice I ever got was from Richard Horvitz. I took one of his classes, and he does like a 6-week thing. And so one of the weeks was all about the mantra, I am enough because I am human. And it's just about like, you're already good enough to like be these characters, and you just have to trust yourself and trust your instincts. Because a lot of times you'll go in, this is for like, you know, after you've gotten a role, you'll go in and you'll be like, so nervous, you know, especially if you haven't worked with them before, like, oh, I hope I don't mess up, I hope I don't make a fool of myself, but like, they already they already picked you, and they want you to do a good job. They are not rooting for you to fail. And so you're enough because you're human, and you're there, and you're allowed to make mistakes. And I remember I had like such a like click in my brain the day after that class when I was driving to a session, and I was like, oh, okay. And then from that point on, everything felt so much smoother, so that's my
Not as nice. I can't wait to hear.
My advice is stop trying. Just do the work. Everybody is always trying to do something instead of just working. And when you're trying to do something, you end up talking about it a whole lot. The people who work the most don't talk about it a lot. People who don't do.
It's really easy in this day and age of new generations of voice actors to get caught up in the social media machine. Yeah. And I would advise you to not do that. And it's tough because it can feel like it's a community of other people who are doing the same thing as you or trying to break into the same place that you are. So on the one hand, I suppose they can be supportive, but like Eric said, you'll end up spending more of your time dealing with this instead of getting better at your craft, which will get you work, which is what you want to be doing. So.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
What was the first voice acting job that you ever done?
Cool. She said, what's the first voice acting job we ever did? Can't remember.
I think the first voice acting gig that I can remember, because the first few you actually don't remember. Like,
You don't realize, oh, that was voice acting, wasn't it?
Yeah. I was on the show, The Power Rangers, and I did voices for a couple of the different monsters. One was called Louis Kaboom, I think his name was. And then there was Power Rangers Turbo, which was the next season, and I played this guy named Rygog and a little wizard named Larigo. That was kind of the first thing I did. And then Power Rangers in Space, I played Ecliptor. And then the rest was sort of history.
What's your first gig?
I think it was small little incidental roles, like background characters in the anime K-On! That was definitely the first one I heard myself in, because I remember I had like a crisis when I heard it, because I was like, everyone else sounds like they belong, and I sound just like me. And turns out that's regular, fine, but I was so weirded out hearing myself come from this anime character, and I was like, everyone will know that I'm an imposter. So I think that was, if not my first one, my very first ones.
My first work was at Funimation in the dubs for Case Closed, and I was just all sorts of random people. I was in the very first episode. My boyfriend gets decapitated on a roller coaster.
I remember that too!
Yeah, yes, it was amazing. But before that, the first things that were ever recorded of me were because this guy made me get in a booth while I was on a tour of the studio. And we were doing Yu Yu Hakusho. He was doing it. I didn't know that I was about to be doing it. I thought this was part of the tour. And he's like, go to this page and say this line. And the line was, ugly creep, how about I mace you? And I still don't know if it's like pepper spray mace or like spiky ball and a stick. I don't know which one. But that's the first thing I ever said in anime. Did you keep it? Did I not get paid for that?
You didn't get paid for that.
What was your first gig?
Mine was easy. My first voiceover gig was Trunks in Dragon Ball Z. It's working! Right, thank you.
You good? Jump scare.
I've been acting professionally for a while and making ends meet with, pizza delivery job, and ran into a friend who gave me the number to get an audition. I auditioned a few times, and then when they were in a pickle and didn't have the right voice for Trunks, and they called me to audition, and that was that.
We have a microphone now, thank you!
I remember that episode with a keen eye for details, one truth prevails.
There it is!
Anyway, my question is for Erika.
Hi.
A while back, you worked on a little series called Violet Evergarden.
Yes!
And I have to wonder, were any parts of that really difficult to do? Because it was a really beautiful series, and watching Violet grow as a character was great to watch, but let me tell you, some parts of that were an emotional gut punch to watch, too.
Oh my gosh, so I love playing Violet so much. Such a beautiful show and a beautiful character. That was my very first time having to do a simuldub situation. And so the fact that I went in and I was like, all right, I looked up as much as I could. There's only been a preview of episode 1. Some people online think she might be a robot. What do you think, director? Is she a robot? They were like, we don't know. Let's just assume no for now. And I was like, cool, great. I assume also no. And so that was stressful because it was my first time where it wasn't out yet in Japan when we were recording it, and I was like, oh god, what if we make some horrible choice and everything is ruined. Thankfully we didn't. And then everyone who watches the show cries in episode 10, which is the mom who writes letters for her child. I personally, the hardest episode for me was episode 9, because Violet has her personal breakdown in episode 9. And she, tries to choke herself, and it's very dramatic, very, really sad scene, where she's just totally given up on everything. And so that one for me was the most difficult and the most emotional. And then after it came out, everyone was like, episode 10! And I was like, right, I didn't actually see a lot of the letter parts afterwards, so I forgot. That one was also very emotional. But yeah, it wasn't too hard. Her voice is pretty easy, and I love characters that have a really good arc, so I can do a lot of acting. And so it was awesome. I love being Violet. And I'm sad it's over. Thank you.
here's hoping he gets another season.
Oh, that'll be awesome. Thank you.
Hello. I have a question for Lex and Eric. What do you guys like the most about your characters, Suguru and Sanji?
What do you like the most about Sanji?
He's Sanji. You're super.
I am.
It was the name of the guy I was trying to remember.
Suguru Geto. What do I like most about him? Well, it's interesting because Suguru has this ideology, like the way he believes, and you don't know about it until you see the movie. I don't know if anyone's seen the movie, Jujutsu Kaisen 0, but there's some flashbacks where you get to see like how he believed originally, because he believes in this world where sorcerers can protect non-sorcerers. Like that was his initial belief. And then you get to see the whole arc, a bunch of these different things. I'm not going to do spoilers, but a bunch of stuff that happens where suddenly his entire attitude changes. And so, whenever I'm playing any character, I like to see how they get into like an arc of how their character develops and how it grows and becomes more intense. And so that's probably what I like most about playing that character, is that what I like about the character itself is that he's like a super powerful, high-grade sorcerer, and that's like always fun to play those kind of characters.
So, my favorite thing about Sanji. It's the social experiment behind the show. Nobody cared about this show for a long time. They didn't care about it when it was with another studio. They didn't care about it when it came over to Funimation and now Crunchyroll. And then like 2 years ago, everybody all of a sudden is like, this is the best show ever. And so it's weird to watch like a character that's exactly the same at episode 1000 as he was at episode 200. There's no change. He's exactly the same. But everybody has grown to love these characters, I think, in that show because none of them ever change. They're all exactly the same. And it's kind of like watching, for people like me, it's kind of like watching an old episode of Friends. You can always count on Ross to be stupid Ross. So you can sit back and watch it and be comfortable with that sort of thing. So that's been my favorite thing, is that sort of social experiment of watching people over time turn toward this particular show that we've been working on for so long, and it's now become this comforting show for a lot of people.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hey.
Just a John question, I guess. If there was one thing about the industry that you wish you knew before you got into careers, what would that be?
If there was one thing about the industry that we
We wish we knew. Yeah, one thing about the industry we wish we knew before we got started.
Very good one. Not one person in my entire career has ever asked for my degree. Not once.
When I started, I wish I had known that the internet was going to be happening.
I feel, okay, so I used to watch panels like this before I was a voice actor, particularly with you on them. And you had great advice, so I feel like I knew a lot before I just started.
Wow. Yeah, thank you that I said smart things.
Yeah, you said very smart things.
I think the advice you gave earlier, though, from Richard Horowitz was like, there's only one of you.
Yeah.
So just be you, like bring you to the characters, because you don't have to try to be like somebody else, Steve Bloom's amazing because he's Steve Bloom. I don't want to try to act like Steve Bloom. Eric's amazing because he's Eric. I'm not going to go in and try to act like him. You're your own superhero, so just, remember that.
From a practical perspective, there's a lot I had no clue about as a young person in regards to myself as an actor being my own business and having to do things and know stuff about money and taxes and all of that. Maybe you think that when you're famous or something, or like animate people, there's someone who does that for you. No, it's you. So like having to really get on top of all that stuff when you're young and new in it, it can only help you.
Thank you.
One
thought of
more.
another one.
I thought of another one. Stop vilifying failure. Don't vilify failure. You failed because a million reasons. You weren't good for this role. You didn't study hard enough. Your acting foundation wasn't strong enough. But if you fail, it means you know what to work on so that you can get better. Failure is not bad. It just shows you where your path is.
That's great.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, as a voice actor, we do more auditioning than we do working. So like
That's our job.
90% of our job is auditioning. And if we're lucky to get 1 out of 100 or whatever auditions, we're psyched, you know.
Thank you.
That's a good one.
Hello.
Hello.
So when you guys are like saying your lines, do you ever like act it out?
All
You
the
mean
time.
like with our bodies?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
For sure.
Always.
Yeah, that helps. At least maybe during the preview, Lex mentioned that when we're dubbing anime, we watch it in Japanese first. Sometimes if it is an action sequence, it might help for us to physically feel what that is like, but when we're recording, you have to be very careful that you stay with your mouth facing the microphone, that you don't whack it or slap cords around and all
Keep
of
your
that.
feet planted, so if you're running,
Yeah.
you're not going to be jogging in place.
Yeah, but you know,
Just moving the
if
body.
you've never done something like throw a punch for real, like maybe you should try what that feels like and the sound that you actually make. Just don't punch the microphone because they cost like $2,000.
Or anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you have to act it out, but as if you're trapped in a box. So like you have to keep your face very still and your feet can't leave the floor. But everything else, as long as I'm not gonna hit equipment, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, and as long as your clothes don't make a lot of noise.
Oh, yeah,
so
you
you
can't
can't
wear
even
clothes that have-
like move your arms if your character's running because of this fabric sound, which you can't hear now. But the mic will pick up everything. So
Alright, thank you.
Also, I learned this from my daughter. My daughter is on the autism spectrum, and when she was very young, we noticed that it may be an issue because she was walking on her toes. She's 16 now, and she still kind of does. But I always thought, like, I always look at my kids, like, what can I learn from my kids, right? What I learned from her in that thing is that I can keep my energy level high by leaning forward on my feet. I can stay planted, but I can stay active by engaging my legs, standing on the balls or toes of my feet, but I don't leave the mic space.
wow. Thanks, Lily.
I know, Lily's smarter than all of us.
Very interesting.
Thank you.
Alright, thank you.
Thank you.
10 minutes left for science says. Thank you.
10 minutes,
Okay,
okay,
we're
we
gonna
go.
get
Rapid
through
fire.
Okay, one question to all of you guys. If you guys go to Japan, what's your favorite seiyuu or your favorite voice actor or actress from Japan, or who do you want to meet?
Okay, I would like to meet Maya Sakamoto. She's the voice of Haruhi Fujioka and many, many others. It was also just her birthday yesterday, so. Otanjobi omedetou gozaimasu. Sakamoto-san. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
We all agree with Caitlin.
And all want to meet Maya Sakamoto.
Yeah, I also remember she also debuted in the Division of Escaflowne, if I remember.
And I
I'd
played
like to
Hitomi
meet
in
Miyazaki
Escaflowne.
would be good too.
Miyazaki was pretty rad. Wouldn't mind meeting that guy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's a rare actor that can afford to turn down work, but is there anything that would be a red flag for you that you would say, I don't want to apply, I don't want to audition for this, or if they make an offer, you would say, no, maybe I don't want to take this after all.
I don't like to do anything that's like too sexual, you know, like super hentai. I don't audition for that. I also sometimes, if it's like super screamy, I'll sometimes pass, especially if I know I have a lot of projects going on. I learned my lesson to not do a screamy thing when you have like 6 other projects at the same time. I think those are the main things.
I've turned down a few things where the copy and the auditions were like really racist, even if it's a game, like if it's really bad or it like goes against like diversity or judges people and things like that. I'll just be like, you know what, the world doesn't need any more of this. I'm gonna pass on this.
Kind of pass at the audition level, really.
Yeah.
I got an audition the other day for a feature film, and they wanted this software program, they wanted me to agree to do the audition before I could read the copy, before I even knew what the character was or what the story was or anything. And I'm like, no. You know, that's like huge red flag.
Yeah, I did also read this one for this audition, and as I read the copy, I was like, I feel like this is for a cult. So, and I asked them, I was like, is this for a cult? And they were like, well, no. And I was like, that's not a hard enough no. So, no thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have you guys ever like watched an anime after you like acted it and like voice acted it?
Have we watched them after we voice acted them?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You don't watch any of it? I used to when I was first working in the industry, but now I direct and I watch anime all day. And so the last thing I want to do usually when I get home is watch more of it. Though I am often curious how shows that I act in turn out. Because as Lex mentioned, when we do anime, it's one actor at a time. It's not all of the cast in a room together. You get to hear each other. So sometimes you go in and it's kind of like, you've seen those behind the scenes where it's like a movie with lots of special effects and it's just actors with a green screen and they're being told there's Hogwarts or there's a dinosaur. Like anime dubbing's kind of like that. Like, well, I'm doing this thing, don't know what Erika's gonna sound like, or Lex or anybody. So I wish I had the time to go in and listen to the finished product, but anymore I just don't.
We don't watch every show, but if there's like a big movie and it's a premiere and it's
Yeah,
playing
we'll
in
go
the
to a big
theaters,
party.
we'll go for sure to see it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The line got longer. How did that happen?
We have 5 minutes left, so we're gonna.
All right, I'll jump in this quick. What would you say, like, anyone can answer this, what would you say is, like, the most difficult part, like, when it comes to, like, the prep work, like, before you prepare, like, for the audition and everything like that?
Before an audition?
Yes, like you get the part, like, you read it through, like, what would you say is, like, the most difficult part?
I guess, no, it's not audition, for an audition. So I guess I have ADHD, so sometimes if the script is really long, I have to really gear myself up to read through the whole thing before I do the audition. And I'm like, this is so much information that I did not need, but I gotta read the whole thing.
The most difficult part about the prep work is how we don't have time for the prep work. Yeah, for real, like if it's an audition situation. So the prep is all of the time we put into our craft before we step into the booth and open our email from our agents and then have to come up with a voice like that and read words we've never seen and record it like that. So, but it's fun. It's so fun.
It is really fun. I guess also like I've had such a busy recording week, which is awesome. And then I come home and I have a bunch of auditions that I do in the morning, and I'm like, I'm so tired. I just want to go to sleep, but you gotta get yourself hyped up. So sometimes that's difficult.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
My question is for Eric. I know you've been involved in a couple of projects that have gotten re-adaptations, like for example, Fullmetal Alchemist and Brotherhood, and then Fruits Basket, and then the new adaptation. What's it like coming back to the same character before, but having to approach it in like a slightly different way? Because in these newer adaptations, sometimes they make changes to the characters.
Everything changes the second time you go around. Sometimes, like the Fruits Basket, it explores the story in a way that the first time it didn't. Sometimes, like Dragon Ball Z, Kai does the opposite. And I just try to approach it I try to approach my life in a minute-to-minute singularity. So every time I walk into a booth, I don't need to know what I'm working on. I need the director to tell me. And I need to look at the script, and I need to talk with the director and figure out what we're doing and take that moment and make that happen. So I try not to, I think if I look at it like you're asking the question, I'd probably get too overwhelmed. So I try to squish it down.
So basically kind of like taking it like different character.
It's brand new.
Yeah, like it's brand new. Like every moment is brand new.
Yeah, I will say that the Brotherhood version of Kimberly kind of had some interesting points. Both of them are nuts in their own way.
That's true. And he looked like Agatha Christie.
Thank you. Let's see if we can get one or two more questions in. Go fast.
Speed round.
Hi, good evening to you all. I want to ask this question, and probably weird question, I guess. What keeps you keep going in voice acting, and that keeps you going on this path, and makes you a bit, I don't know,
what keeps us going? We love it. We love doing it.
All of y'all, to be honest.
Yeah.
If we come here and
We come here, we see how you love it, and we love loving it, and you love loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not sure about this question yet. Which of your characters did you most enjoy?
most enjoy. That's kind of different than favorite. I will say Kawaii White from Street Fighter. I used to play Street Fighter as a kid, so to have the opportunity to audition for her back in 2007, and I've been Cammy since Street Fighter 4, and Street Fighter 6 comes out in June. You can pre-order it. It just blows my mind. Every time I step into that booth, I'm like, Capcom still love me. It's just, I can't believe it. Pinch myself every time.
Mine's got to be a cross between Neocortex and Crash Bandicoot. I love playing that character, it's super fun. Or Dr. Doom also is another character that I love playing.
So I'm the biggest Kingdom Hearts fan ever, maybe. So this is going to be out of left field, but getting to be incidentals in Kingdom Hearts 3 was the greatest day of my life, and I can say that because my husband also proposed that day, so it's fine. He did it on purpose because he didn't want to compete with Kingdom Hearts 2.
He's smart.
Yeah.
Thank you. I always like Desert Punk.
If you haven't seen it, check it out.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
We're out of time.
Oh, we can't. Look at Shakira back there.
We can do all these.
We'll do
Yes,
all.
everybody.
Nobody else
I
does
just
mine.
wanted to ask, when you first signed with an agent, and is a voice agent different from a talent agent?
They're all talent agents, but a voice agent is different than an on-camera agent. Yes.
So do
They-
they generally have the same, I mean, they have a voice agent inside of the other agencies?
And yes, an agency will have multiple people that handle each area of acting. So on camera, and for me, even within voiceover, there are different people that handle animation, commercial, video game, promo. So, but they'll all be under one banner. But you don't have to have your on-camera agent isn't necessarily from the same agency as your voiceover.
What's the best agency?
Oh, it depends on where you
So many good
live.
ones.
Yeah, that's where you live.
Tomorrow morning, 10:30, room 314.
I thought that would be a good
There you go. Come to learn everything you want to know about
Hi,
voice.
final question.
You guys are so cute.
So my question was, since I like doing voice acting sometimes, and I don't really like it anymore, how would I start voice acting at my age?
How would
How
you
would you
start
start?
with
Best
this?
way to start voice acting?
There's a website called iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. If you can't remember that, then you don't want to be a voice actor.
I want to be a voice actor.
There's this guy named D. Baker who's a really prolific voice actor. He's been in a million things, D. Bradley Baker. And we get asked, how do I break into the business or how do I get started at any age? You can be super young or super old. And he put together this website that has everything that you need to know, how to practice, where to go, how to get an agent, what makes a good demo, all that stuff. So that's a great starting point. iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. That'd be my recommendation.
Yeah, and it'll be the same for you as it will for anyone who's an adult or anything. It's the same, process of training and auditioning and all that cool stuff.
At any level of experience too. So if you have no experience or you're just doing YouTube videos with your friends, to having some experience and doing real projects with people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks guys, we'll be downstairs tomorrow.